Are you saying to yourself that someday you'll finally start researching your ancestors, or someday you'll finally take a research trip to that county courthouse where your ancestors lived, looking for records? Well, in this video, I'm showing you how to get past that someday mindset and start making progress on finding your ancestors. Hey there, if we haven't met before, I'm Lisa with Are You My Cousin, and this YouTube channel is designed to help you find your ancestors, grow your family tree, but not be overwhelmed in the process. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, you're in the right place. Now, I suspect that one of the common reasons that you may not be making progress in your genealogy research, and it's certainly been a problem for me in the past, is that, well, you're thinking, someday I'll do that. Someday I'm going to take that research trip to the Halifax County Courthouse. Someday I'll sit down for 2 hours and really go through the records that I already have and looking at my ancestor. I'll have that intense research session that I need. Someday I'll tackle that family mystery and find out really who that person is in the family tree. Does that sound familiar? Have you said that to yourself? I know I certainly have in the past. I've said that someday I'll do that. Guys, I've got news for you. Someday is not a day of the week. So if I'm going to my calendar and I'm going to put down something that I'm going to do someday, it's never going to make it on that calendar, and then it's never going to get done. So what are we going to do about that, guys? How are we going to fix this problem so that we can get moving forward in our genealogy research? Does this happen to you? Are you guilty of somedaying your research? If so, be sure and hit that like button and let me know. It's always comforting to know I'm not the only one out there doing this type of thing. Okay, so how are we going to fix this? If someday is not a day of the week, what are we going to do? And what does this look like? I wanted to share with you a little bit of how I've been somedaying my brick wall ancestor, Joanna Barrett. You guys have heard me mention her in the past if you followed any of my videos for any length of time. And let me show you what that looks like and how I'm going about fixing this somedaying project so that I can actually make progress on researching her. So Joanna Barrett is my third great grandmother, and she is my brick wall ancestor and has been for a number of years. She was born in Ireland. She crossed the Atlantic. We have some oral history that seems a little sketchy when I started putting the records I found with it, so I'm not real comfortable with the accuracy of the oral history that surrounds her immigration over to America. She ends up in a part of North Carolina where we do not find many Irish immigrants, and she builds a really great life there. But I just don't know who she was before she came to America and where she came from. I can't get that, can't find out who her parents are and what precipitated her coming over to America. Now, I've done a lot of research into Joanna. There's still a lot of research to do, and I have been very guilty of saying, okay, yes, someday I'm going to go look for these records. Someday I'm going to go up to the county courthouse and do a more thorough search than what I've been able to do online. Now, I did that on someday. Someday's not a day of the week, so it hasn't gotten done. Another big piece of the puzzle that I need to do is I need to reach out to some of the collateral family, those distant cousins who come off some of the other lines, because I know she's in their family tree. Some of the oral history has been very similar across the different lines. And so I need to reach out and really talk and see if there's some other stories that came down that didn't make it down my side of the family. Now, I've always been going to do that someday. And well, someday is not a day of the week, so it hasn't gotten done. So these are just two pieces of the puzzle of things that I need to do to make progress on this brick wall that I haven't done because I have somedayed those tasks. But I'm ready. So how am I going to fix this? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I am pulling out my genealogy research plan for Joanna Barrett. Now, I've talked about research plans in previous videos. I will link them in the description below. And if you're not comfortable or haven't been using a research plan and just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, take a look at the videos, because when you have that plan, you're going to be focused and it's really going to take you a long ways in getting out of that someday mindset. All right, so I'm going to pull out my research plan. And as I look at that research plan, I'm noting that I need an actual research trip to the courthouse and that I need to reach out to distant cousins and see what types of oral histories and other pieces of family history that could be out there in the family that did not come down my side of the family. All right, so I know what I need to do, and I have my research plan. I'm going to pull out my calendar, and I'm going to put on the calendar time to schedule that particular activity. Now let's start with reaching out to distant relatives, because that I can do from home. It doesn't require travel. So there's a lot less time involved and a lot less expense involved, quite frankly, than making that research trip. So reaching out to other family members up in the area, some of those distant cousins, distant on the family tree. I'm going to make a note on my calendar that on Friday, and I'm going to say, all right, on Friday, June 21st, I'm going to set some time at 10 o'clock from 10 to 11, and I am going to reach out by email to these distant cousins. So I'm going to set some time. I'm going to my calendar. This is a task that I really want to do. And so I am going to sit down. I've put it on my calendar that at 10 a.m. on June 21st, Friday the 21st, I can take an hour and a half where I can work on reaching out to these distant cousins. The first step there may be finding their email addresses or finding their home addresses or phone numbers so that I can actually do some phone calls. But I'm going to dedicate that time for reaching out. But I'm going to dedicate that time to work on reaching out to and getting in touch with these distant cousins. Now again, Friday, June 21st at 10 a.m. That's a very specific time. It's on my calendar, and I know that when I open up the calendar for that day and see that, I'm ready to go. All right. That's not someday. That is Friday, June 21st. So what happens when you have an item on that to-do list, that genealogy to-do list, that is a someday type of activity? Because you just, at this moment in time, do not know when is the best time to actually schedule it. So if you need to take a trip, maybe your to-do list requires that you travel to a county courthouse, much like my list has that as well. Now, I am not ready in this moment to actually schedule that trip on my calendar because, well, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of comings and goings within the family. My own personal travel is coming up. You guys have that. You're helping out with your children. You've got grandchildren maybe you're helping take care of. You've got family reunions that are happening during the summertime things. So you know that this is something that's important to your research. It's something you want to do, but you just are not able to pinpoint a specific day or time period right now. That's okay, but we don't want to lose that in the someday pile. So what I do is I take my calendar, I look ahead a couple months, and I will pick a day. So say I pick September 1st, and I make a note on the calendar, revisit when to visit the Surry County Courthouse, or revisit the Surry County Courthouse research trip. So it's on my calendar, and then I don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to forget about it. It's not going to be one of those, okay, what's left over? What have I done? Do I need to, it's I said I'd do it someday, and 6 months have passed and I haven't even looked to see when I can get it on my calendar. So when September 1st comes around, I can look at my calendar, and I will see that note myself to revisit when to make this research trip. And I may not be ready at that moment to be able to do that. Maybe things are still kind of chaotic and I, for whatever reason, cannot put that into the calendar. Well, then I'm going to move that note, 4 weeks out, 8 weeks out. But I keep it on the calendar so that I don't forget it. Because if it's not on the calendar and doesn't show up at regular intervals in front of me, I'm going to forget. So, but maybe it's September 1st. I look at that and I'm like, oh yes, I am ready. Things have slowed down. I've got a little bit more time right now. I can travel a little bit more right now. Yes, I am ready to put that on the calendar, and I will pick the time, the day, because the one I'm looking at in particular is a day trip. So it's just one day that I need to schedule. So I'm going to put that on the calendar and I'll be ready to go. Now, I think there's nothing magical about a calendar. We're used to using calendars. We learned to use these when we were in school, right? To stay on task, not to miss assignments. So we're familiar with calendars. Whether you use a paper calendar or a digital calendar is personal choice. I use a digital calendar for my appointments and things like this because it's on my phone, it's easy to access, and it's, pretty much with me all the time, right? So that's the beauty of having that calendar. Now, one of the reasons I think things tend to end up on the someday pile is because, in my head, I think that this project is going to take hours and hours of time. So when in reality, that's typically not true. So for my task where I need to reach out to the distant cousins and reaching out to other family members to see what they know and if I can find any extra clues, that really isn't going to take me that long. I'm actually only blocking out about an hour to an hour and a half. It depends on how many emails and phone numbers that I have or that I will need to find. But it's not going to take me a full day by any stretch of the imagination. It's only going to take me a very focused amount of time. A trip to the county courthouse isn't going to take me several days. When I sat down and looked at it, I can do everything in one day, including getting there and getting back. A long day to be sure, but I can do it. And so I'm good with that. So putting things on the calendar helps us get things done, but it also helps us get a better perspective of how much time something might actually take. Now, finding time to research your ancestors is tough. I do know that. But don't let it be an excuse for not getting your research done. You can research your ancestors in just 20 minutes a day. Learn how in the video on your screen now. Discover your family history in just 20 minutes a day.